Hi, this is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching, doing the trade review for Friday, the 16th of May. So we are heading into what will be a long weekend holiday this week. Last week was actually a spectacularly boring week, with the exception of Thursday. And so, outside of just going over the trade review for Friday, by the way, and I got to erase this here really quick, I pointed out, and I'll come back to this in a moment, why I had those zones there. One of the things, there's a couple things that I want people to keep in mind of what I'm trying to accomplish, both with the room, the trade reviews, and the coaching. And the number one thing is to move people and get them to understand what they need to do to move from being frustrated, break-even traders or losing traders to winning traders. And part of the secret there, and it's not a secret, it's written about over and over again, okay? Look, I've worked with people who've been in E-mini Players Room, I've worked with FT71, I've worked with a lot of really great traders, okay? And I'll use FT71 as an excellent example. The man is a fantastic, phenomenal trader. I have absolutely no criticism of him as a trader or the fantastic work he's done to try to help others out. But one of the difficulties, as for example, myself, I'm dyslexic and I'm ADD. I do not think like FT does. The man has a brain like a computer and like a spreadsheet. Okay, he's very, very methodical. He sees small details with ease. Okay, and he has great control of his emotions. Obviously, he talks a lot about the monkey on your back, and he does a lot of work through meditation. Okay, getting people to meditate, I think, is fantastic. It's been one of the largest areas where I've been able to improve my overall performance is by simply doing breathing exercise. But the other part of that that's very important is that I don't think like FT does. Okay, first of all, I'm not methodical in my thinking process. Everything I've done to get to this point in my trading career has been through blood, sweat, and tears because I'm not naturally disciplined. I'm erratic by nature. My thinking process is disorganized, okay, and I'm impulsive. All of those work against traders. But here's the deal: the majority of people who try to trade, right? Those are the qualities that they display. If you think about the people you meet in life, most of us aren't disciplined, highly focused, mathematically oriented, and computer-like thinking process, and so a lot of those people tend to be they have Asperger-like symptoms in terms of their personalities, right? Which is it's a type of disorder, but they tend to be highly organized in their thought process and ultra focused, right? And secondly, they tend to be very good at the computer sciences and in sciences in general. They tend to be engineers. So that doesn't fit me at all. So if I were learning to become a trader and I followed FT71, it would be an absolute nightmare for me, okay? Because I don't understand how he thinks. I can't even remotely relate to it, and I would lose money trying to trade the way he does because it doesn't fit my personality. And I think that's the biggest key to becoming a success as a trader, okay? The second thing that I tried to do is I realized a long time ago, I really don't have the skill set to trade all day long. I really just cannot sit down at 8 a.m. If I look at the amount of hours I put into work on this, usually I put 1 or 2 hours in the evening prior to the day. I usually put in a good hour before I get to the market preview, setting up the day and going through my own trades and my own processes to get ready for the day. Okay, that's 3 hours a day of not trading that I'm getting prepared. And then I sit there and I start to trade. I can only make so many good decisions in a row, and that's backed up by tons of psychological work. I mean, just in general, how many critical, high-level, high-quality decisions an individual can make. The last piece that's stacked against you on top of that are all the pressures you have from the outside world, right? And most of us don't have the ability to really kind of slow our thought process down. So, and then you put the final piece in that this is the one piece that people discount continuously, and that is that this is a blood sport. Okay, the guys we're competing against are guys like Paul Tudor Jones, the BlackRocks of the world, the Stevie Cohens of the world. There's the guy Raj, I forget what his name is, in jail now for insider trading, but I don't care what he did in terms of insider trading, if he insider traded or not. I'm not making a judgment on him, but as a trader, the man was a phenomenal trader. Okay, we're competing against the best hedge funds, the best traders, the best guys on trading desks all over the world. And I think because we are isolated from that, right? There's no public humiliation from getting your ass kicked, right? This is all done quietly behind computer screens, and no one has to know about it, right? And then the second part is we can't actually see our opponent. If we were to step into a ring and, for example, Paul Tudor Jones were being represented by Mike Tyson, shit, I would never pull the trading trigger because I know the minute I step in that ring, I'm likely to get my ass kicked, right? And if I had to fight the guy, I would be extremely careful. Therefore, taking that all into consideration, that I'm at a disadvantage mentally, right? I'm at a disadvantage from a personality standpoint because this is more of a chess game than a seat of the pants, right? Taking into mind that I don't have the ability to influence the market via the size that I trade, okay? And then taking in the fact that I am trading against the best, I want to position myself in such a way that I'm only taking my best shots. I basically want to be the kid who's scared, and I'm only going to throw a shot when I know there's absolutely no way or very little way I'm going to get hit back, because I know if I get hit back, I'm losing. So I hope that makes sense in terms of where I'm positioned. Now, some people can call that wimpy. I call that being smart. Why? I don't like getting beat up. I don't like losing money, and I'm being a realist, meaning I know that I'm at a disadvantage when it comes to trading the market. So I'm going to place myself in a location that lets me make the most amount of money and the most amount of money with the least amount of risk. But not only that, I want to take it one step further. When I do have my advantage, because I know I'm going to have to be patient, right? Even though I get plenty of trading opportunities every day, right? When I do have my advantage and I know that I actually have the ability to strike, I want to strike with all the force I have. Now, think about this for a second. Paint a larger picture, right? There's two ways to make a lot of money trading. You can string together with reasonable amount of leverage, right? Hundreds of trades. And the idea is that you'll be able to make consistently a series of great trading decisions, right? And where most people, a series of great trading decisions, and that you'll be able to make really a lot of money on each trade, and you'll be able to keep that up. I found that's not very likely, meaning if you do it that way, so let's say you made $100 a trade, and you did it with one contract, and you had $10,000 or $20,000, whatever it is, right? It would take you forever to make any kind of serious sum of money in the market, right? Even if you had $1 million to speculate, and you did one contract for every 20,000, it would still take you forever to have a significant increase, right? Not only that, but your odds of making all those good decisions in a row are very low. Now, most people realize that, right? They realize I'm not going to be able to make 10 trades in a row and have them all be profitable intra-day, all day long. But then they go to the next step and they say, I'm going to be able to capture 5 to 10 points on every trade, or I'm not trading. Well, guess what that leads to? There are periods of time in the market where that does occur and you can get paid consistently, okay? But they're spread far apart, okay? So what that requires in order to make that work, believe me, I've tried, okay, in my career. What required to make that work is that A, you have fantastic discipline on your exits, right? When the market sucks, and it can for long periods of time, okay? What we have Friday in these tiny little ranges can go on for months at a time sometimes. Hopefully not, but at times they can, right? You have to be able to wait those periods out without taking any kind of significant drawdown. The third piece is, look how long it takes. This is a move on Friday, right here. If I still have anyone with me and I haven't killed everybody. This is a move from 1862 up to 1876. It's a good move, right? 62, 76, 14-point move. Who wouldn't want that? However, I know no trader, none, who's a day trader that can enter a trade at 9 in the morning, right, and successfully hold all the way through this without blinking. Very few. The only way I've ever been able to accomplish it is I take my scale, hit my stop, and swing low, and I go away, and I truly don't care whether it comes back against me. But let me tell you, about half the time you do this, right, I've seen it where it comes back, tags you out, and then makes the move. The pattern just simply isn't repetitive and easily accomplished. And so you're going to look on your books, on your P&L, and go, if I do that, right, how many times is that going to come against me? And I can tell you, it's about 50% of the time that trade's going to come all the way back against you. It's very hard to tell. So long story short, and I realize I'm turning this from instead of a review into more of a coaching session, but I'm going to go through this and finish this thought process out. Okay, what I figured out in my methodology, in my approach, is that I can make really 2 to 3 really good decisions, maybe 4 every morning. Okay, and I can usually have a very high win rate, usually above 70%. Occasionally, I can hover near the 90s for an extended period of time. With that, I figured out that if I could simply take Mark Douglas's concept of getting 10 trades in a row, right, and executing them all perfectly. And what I mean is that is by focusing on the process, my entry, my exit, my stop, and my exit out of the trade, all predetermined, right, and I follow that precisely each time. And if I could do that and maintain a 70% win rate minimum, right, maybe 65, but usually 70, that I could increase my trade size every 10 to 15 trades and continue doing that I could very quickly get to a trading size that would have an impact on my bottom line, a major impact on my bottom line. Additionally, that so I attain 2 things that are needed in business, right? First of all, I have a good concept. I know that I have a trading edge, right? And I have scalability. Those are 2 things you want, whether you're a Fortune 500 company or a small business owner. And I do approach this from a small business standpoint, right? The second thing I figured out is I'm not very good at figuring out when I'm going to have 10-point moves. I get an inkling, but my ability to actually put on a whole position, wait 10 points to get that 10, and then walk away and be able to do that all the way through the course of the year, I found is extremely small. And what would back me up is the failure rate that you have in futures trading. Over 70% of futures accounts that are closed and they're blown up, or they have fallen below minimum margin requirements, no longer trade. Okay, that's a huge failure rate. And I would venture to say even higher are those who survive, that only the top 5% actually ever go on to make any money, and only the top 1% actually make any kind of significant money. I would argue that all those people that are selling, hey, I can capture 5 to 10 point moves, right? That they're selling the concept and the idea, and it sounds great, but they're selling a lot of frustration. Most people can't achieve it, right? So going back and looking at the way that I trade, I know that I have high odds of acquiring a 2-point rotation. I know that the zones where I place them have high odds of finding a counter rotation. Does it work every time? No. Nothing works every time in the market. It's the market, right? And then the third piece is I can take care of my mental capital, my emotional capital, and my trading capital all at one time by exercising good stop discipline, right? And then I know even if I get stopped on one day, that it's very likely that I come back the next and I make a tremendous amount of money, and that the majority of my days are winning days. I'm going to start posting the first several trades that I do every day again on the blog so that everyone will understand. So I'm being a bit long-winded here, but I want to bring it back around so that everyone is clear what I'm trying to say. I know that I can maintain a high win rate and a high degree of accuracy in entering my trades by entering where it's hard for my opponents, Paul Tudor Jones of the world and everyone else out there who's out to get my money, and they are out to get my money. I'm not mistaken about that. I place my trade location where it's hard for them to take my money. Secondly, I get out of the trade before it's hard for them to take my winnings away, right? So that backs my emotional capital so that I have a high level of sense of accomplishment, and I have a sense of security knowing that I am pulling money, actual dollars out of the market, and putting it in my pocket. And then the last piece is I'm solving the problem of why I'm in this business to begin with, which is to make a lot of money. And the way I make a lot of money is by increasing my trade size. What everyone wants to do, if we were trading, right? No one wants to stand in front of these monitors all day. If we could all simply pick a place, myself included, where I can enter the trade one time, to grab a huge bundle of money, and then head out for the rest of the day, sit poolside, play with my kids, drive my cars, go out, fly planes, whatever it is that you like to do, that's what all of us would do, because no one goes, I'm going to sit in front of a monitor all day, I guess, unless you're a gamer. And I'm not a gamer. Nothing against gamers. I like being outside. That's what I like to do. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm also identifying in between, on the occasion, when I can hit a really big home run. And I do that with my coaching clients. I do that in my own trades. I identify areas where I'm going to leave larger trailers, so that on those occasions when I have the opportunity to get 5 or 10 points, I put them in my pocket. But what do? I'm always securing at least a portion of that trade, putting it in my pocket, and reducing the risk. Right, so the market can't take money away from me. Okay, market's a cruel place. I am out to get your money. You're out to get my money, even if we're friends with each other. The only way we can not compete against each other as if we're lining up on the same side of the trade, right? But even with that, there's a whole other world out there that thinks we're taking the wrong side of the trade, which is great. That's what makes the market. But those guys are out to take our money just as equally as we're out to take theirs. So it's a blood sport. Don't make any mistake that it's anything less, and you've got to be prepared to fight and kill the guy on the other side of the table from you, because that's what he's trying to do to you. He may do it with a smile, a nice tie, and a good-looking suit, but that's what he's willing to do to feed his family, and it's what I'm willing to do to feed mine and to make sure that my interests are taken care of. So that being said, if you look, we've had a compression of the range. Okay, and I'm going to show you here very easily. Okay, so let's go to a larger time frame. Let's go to 30 minutes. Okay, and if we squeeze this up a little bit, what we're going to see is, look at these ranges that we had before. This is a range, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a range, a 5-day range. Okay, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-day range. Okay, this is right here. This is a 1. See how all of a sudden we're getting smaller ranges, smaller ranges, smaller ranges, smaller ranges. The market's compressing. Okay, the market is compressing from where we were. Right, very small now. That's fine. We may explode out of this, but we're heading into summertime, and we get smaller ranges in the summertime. So, what is that going to mean? Well, I'm going to make sure that that we're getting these small ranges, and if they do, I'll adjust the zones appropriately, right? But until then, remember my mentality is always coming back in and getting trade location at the point where, and this is not what I want to see. This is not what I need here either. I have no idea what I just did with my zones, but we'll find them here shortly. Let's see what I did with it here. Oh, there we go. Okay. So we had the range expanding, and if you'll notice in the morning, my plan was in the market preview, which is posted just below here, I was going to take a short out of this location. I was going to take a long out of this location. Never hit. Okay, so there's nothing that I can do about that. And as a matter of fact, it's not even a problem for me. If you look, I never got any risk. Where's my focus on the trading day? Between 8:30 a.m. and 11 a.m. Okay, those are my highest odds trading day. Highest odds of trading day. Why? I have European participation. I have the best liquidity of the day. I know that I can get good reversals there, and I know my win rate, 80% win of my total overall wins, come in this time of the day. So that's where I'm going to focus my efforts to make my money. In the afternoon, what's the problem with the afternoon? Well, let me show you what the problem is with the afternoon. Market afternoons can get directional, and I have no way of knowing when. They slow down. Now, if you look, this white zone. Question, did the white zone do its job right here? First thing people ask me. Well, I'll argue that it did. We spent 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 minutes. What's the rule that I invoke in the zones? I want to get paid in less than 25 minutes or cover the trade. The market went sideways at the white zone. The white zone did its job. There was no one there to play contra, right? We got squeezed. And so was this effective? Yeah, this is a great place to place your trade. Look at that. You sat here for 25 minutes, had the opportunity for rotation down. It didn't work. You got out with little to no damage. Now, if you didn't cover after 25 minutes, that's your issue, not mine. Furthermore, trading in the last hour. The market can get directional in the last hour, right? Additionally, for the same reason that I didn't call long down in this area, there was a trade up, by the way, there was a trap trade in here that I'm not going to go over. I will start covering the trap trades more now that I've gone to the rooms paid for in the morning. Okay, and this location, there was a trap trade set up, okay? Now, what I was hoping was they were going to push Globex low into the zone, and that would set us up really nicely. They didn't. So I opted, again, remember my strategy, where it's going to be hardest for them to take my money and easiest for me to make. If I got what I would call a weak constitution, said, okay, I'm just going to take the long here no matter what, that means that I had to be willing to take 4 points, essentially, let's call it 3 points, into the zone plus 2 points behind to make sure the trade would work, okay, in order to capture this trade. I'm not willing to capture a trade at any cost just based on the zone trading, right? I'm not willing to capture that trade at any cost. And so therefore, I didn't get filled. I didn't have a zone up here where the Globex high was, right? We missed it by a tick right here. But if you looked, if I said, yeah, just take it in the afternoon when we get to Globex high. Well, look, people got run over. The same people that made money here, which is, by the way, this is a valid setup. And the reason why this trade worked, I would argue, is because you had more market participation than you did in the afternoon. Well, they simply ran over the Globex high on the back end. So let me ask you, if you're going to take the Globex low with confidence, right, how come you're not going to take the Globex high with confidence to the short side? What I would argue is that Globex high and Globex low are in a strategically relevant area. They're fine to take. But when they come in an area that does not give you the strategic upper hand, that you should wait is where I'm going with that. Okay? And that's exactly why I didn't have zones where Globex high was, and I didn't have zones where Globex low was, because it did put me at the highest strategical advantage for entry and to garner my 2 points, and that's all I care about, because it generally takes me 2 or 3 trades to cover my 1 losing trade, and I don't like working for free. So I hope that explained a little bit. I know it's a little convoluted, and I guess what I want to leave everyone with, if I can wrap it back up. Okay. First of all, the ranges are getting narrower in ES. I hope that changes soon, but for right now, it's not. We're getting narrower ranges. I'm going to have to keep that in mind when setting up the zones. Okay. Secondly, we're going into summertime. You should be able to get it done in the first hour and a half. Don't take risk later, because it is hard to trade through a 3-point range for a couple of hours. Really, really difficult. Okay. The last piece, you have to think like a guerrilla fighter. Okay. And you have to place trades where it's going to be hard for others to take money away from you. Let me tell you, the rotation from 1870 down to 1862, okay, that is an 8-point rotation, and that was just enough to make it work. You'll notice people that took smaller rotations in the morning, there was a zone here actually that I did not place on the chart. There's actually, it's pretty easy to see. The zone is actually sitting right there, right? You can see if I had left a zone here, it would have been pretty foobar. Because yes, you could have gotten the rotation out first in the morning, but then the stretch down probably would have stopped most people in the Globex low. So we simply had to have that zone removed completely. So in wrapping things up, what did I want to say? Okay, trade-wise, you focus on your best decisions of the day. Okay. Number 2, make it hard for someone else to take your money. Right. Know what your actual edge is. I know that I get a 70% win rate out of most of these zones. The zone itself provides the edge, right? Have a 2 or 3 high odds trades in your back pocket that you know that if one particular trade isn't working, that another one will, right? Hopefully it's in the second market like the NASDAQ. And then the last piece is realize if you move your focus from I've got to make money to you change that focus to I need to make good trading decisions. I need to have a great process that I follow from beginning to end, and I need to have a scalable concept in my mind, something where I can build on over time and expand the concept from day 1 to day 2, day 2 to day 200, and I can actually see a scalable business working where I'm not constantly having to increase the effort, right? If you ever watch Shark Tank, they always talk about scalability in business planning, right? Well, the way that I trade offers that scalability, okay? Because once I have an edge, I continue to exploit that same edge day after day, and I don't have to make money every single day. So, do I have disadvantages? Yeah, I'm not a shiny, polished marketer kind of guy, okay? I am dyslexic, I am ADD, and I have a hard time staying on point. It's more difficult for people, a little more difficult for people to learn from me. But I've done something that most other people can't, which I'm very good at, which is I'm good at helping people eliminate their losing trades, right, and working through that frustration of initially going through trading a lot but losing to trading a little and going to break even. And then I'm very good at getting them from break even to actually consistently winning, okay? And that is a hard process for anyone to go through. It involves some frustration. It involves some learning about yourself and who you are as a trader. But I've taught people both who've worked for me and under me in a hedge fund environment, and I've taught people in a coaching environment, and I've done a very good job of getting them to understand that if I can get them to slow down and only take their highest odds trades, that they can be winners in this business and actually put money consistently in their pocket. And not only that, it's not just winning for a season, but it's winning day in, day out, and surviving the rough times. Like particularly March, that was hard for many, many traders. All my guys, I can actually say with confidence, got through that March period very well and went on to make a lot of money in April. Okay, and I'm particularly proud of that because when the market's easy, everyone makes a lot of money. When the market's hard, that's where losses occur. So, anyways, I realize this wasn't as much a trade review as it was a mini coaching session, but I wanted to get across the idea that it's not just about the trade location. It's not just about did you make money today. It's about a process that you can replicate daily, day in, day out. That's what I'm trying to achieve with the room. I'm going to make a greater effort now that I've privatized the room in the morning to lay out more specifically which trades I'm looking for and which ones I'm not looking for. And I will do both a general trade review, and then I will go in and I will go into very specific areas of which setups I'm looking for and where, and also start covering some of the trap trades and kind of expand on that concept. Anyone can learn how to trade. Anyone can learn how to trade. You just got to be willing to go through a little bit of period of frustration and a little bit of period of boredom, getting rid of your worst third of your trades. If you can generally get rid of the worst third of your trades, you can get to break even. Then we just start shaving it off till all you've got left are your best trade combinations, and then execute time in, time out, day after day, and knowing that it's not just any one trade that matters, but over a series of trades, you're going to be a net winner. So I hope that helped. My name is Simon. I'm with Trade Perform Coaching. The room goes private tomorrow morning. There's a link on the blog for PayPal to subscribe if you'd like to subscribe to the morning market preview. I'm going to start posting the track records from the trades that I call in that room in the AM. Anyone who's been there for any amount of time knows that I can actually back up what I've been saying in terms of the quality of execution at the zones and how they've paid, right? And I'm really hoping this is going to benefit. Well, actually, I don't care who it benefits. Quite frankly, if there's 5 people in the room or there's 500 people in the room, hopefully it benefits all of them. And that's my goal, is to bring people along to be professional traders. I know I'm not the mass marketing guy that's going to attract hundreds and hundreds of guys. And the reason why is because I'm quite upfront with it's not going to be easy up front to become a professional trader. It's going to take some effort. But I don't bullshit. I shoot it very straight in terms of where you need to execute, right? And I don't make it about having a gambling occasion. I make it about a business. And so that makes it a little drier and a little more focused, and therefore not quite as much fun and a little bit less hype. So anyways, my name is Simon. You can reach me at tradeandperform@gmail.com. You can hit me on StockTwits or Twitter. And I certainly hope this was a help to a few people. And we'll talk to you later. Have a great day. And I'll see everyone bright and early in the morning. I'll be opening the room 15 minutes, 20 minutes early to make sure we have gotten through any issues and addressed any issues that might be occurring for any of the new subscribers. We will talk to you later. Have a great day.